One of the short topics in neonatology, congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So, before we start on with the congenital diaphragmatic hernia, let us see very briefly the anatomy and the embryology of diaphragm. Because if we are very clear about that, then only we can understand that where the defect goes and how it presents in a neonate and what can be the problems, right? So what is diaphragm basically? It is a musculotendinous partition between the chest and the abdomen. Okay. It is supplied by phrenic nerve. Supplied by phrenic nerve. What is the root value? Again, very frequently asked in exam. C3, C4 and C5. Right? So, we'll see the picture, but we'll just know very briefly that what are the parts and which part results in which adult structure in the diaphragm. Right? So, we have the septum transversum. It forms the central tendon of the diaphragm. So, septum transversum forms the central tendon of the diaphragm. Next is the pleuroperitoneal membrane. So, the pleuroperitoneal membrane, what you need to remember that it fuses with the septum transversum. And the dorsal mesentery to form the primitive diaphragm. Okay. Next. So, what does the dorsal mesentery of the diaphragm does? So, dorsal mesentery of the esophagus, it will fuse with the septum transversum and the pleuroperitoneal folds, right? So, dorsal mesentery of esophagus will fuse with pleuroperitoneal folds and septum transversum. Okay. Now, dorsal mesentery will be invaded by myoblasts and that will result in the formation of the crura of the diaphragm. So, dorsal mesentery of the esophagus will form of the diaphragm. So, pleuroperitoneal membrane forms the small peripheral part of diaphragm, forms the small peripheral part of diaphragm. Okay. Next is the mesoderm of the body wall. It forms the large peripheral parts of diaphragm.